Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to the SMB Nation Spring Conference, the 7th annual. For those I haven't met, my name is Harry Brailsford, and we kind of try to start on time. Here's been my experience over the 7 years with spring and what will be the 11th year with fall is we've tried 7:30 a.m. in Vegas. Some of you have been to those sessions. We're doing 9 a.m. out on the West Coast, and you know what? You just got to get going and reel them all in as they get their tickets. So let's do so, and a big shout out to over 100 people watching online worldwide right now. So I want to give you a big wave, and we have Jay Weiss monitoring the chat, as well as the Twitter feed, SMB Nation, the hashtag SMB Nation for the online attendees. So with that said, always like to kind of recognize where people are from. We have a bit from India. Is a bit here. I saw him running around, so we have a bit from India. Yeah, there you are. Stand up for a second. Thank you, sir, for coming. You just flew in from Delhi yesterday through Amsterdam. Thank you that's a long journey. Almost as long, maybe as long as Carlos once again from Brazil. Stand up, sir. Thank you for coming again. I appreciate it. And then we have the Canadians, Ben. There you are. Thank you for coming as always and bringing the good wine again. So. So we have a live experience and virtual experience. And again, the hashtag is SMB Nation. Big shout out to the sponsors, of course. So BlackBerry has been more than generous. There'll be some BlackBerry Z10 giveaways during the show. Go by their booth and find out how we do that. And then the SMB 150 award winners get a BlackBerry Z10. Let me tell you, that's very generous. And then Dell is here with a pavilion and wants to have a conversation with you. Dell's a very interesting story right now with their acquisition strategy. If you haven't followed what they've done in the industry in the last couple of years, you're going to be surprised. Lenovo, longtime friend of the family, Jay Weiss was just at the Accelerate conference. In fact, you flew. You flew from Lenovo Accelerate to here. And then a couple of shout outs to quickly, CompTIA, D&H Distributing, Epson, Cloud Nation, Exchange Defender, highly reliable, Joom Connect, Kroll on Track, Microsoft VFI. So that's the political organization. Stop by their booth and find out. They're not a PAC, they're a trade association, but find out how you can kind of elevate your career and get more politically involved. UMA, PC Pit Stop, I'm going to show you the new white paper we're releasing today for them. Savvis Direct, SMBTN, Baring McKinley, and of course, last and certainly not least, Varvid, because they're the ones streaming the video to the worldwide audience. So definitely got to give you guys a good shout out. With that said, a snapshot in time. Today's kind of an interesting day. I mean, I just couldn't help but chuckle with the news on CNBC this morning because back in early October 2008 with our fall conference in downtown Seattle, the infamous one with the winds that blew the tent in the water, and it was the SBS 2008 launch, we begged you not to turn on your TV and don't check the news sites. Please don't do that. That was the day. And now I want you to turn on the TV, and I want you to check the news sites. The Dow just crossed 15,000 this morning, the S&P over 1,600. You know, and we can talk about that this week in a little Hallway 101. Is that trickling down to Main Street? We can have that conversation, or is it artificial from the Fed infusion with the bond buybacks? So love to have those kind of talks out in the hallway. A couple of announcements today. We always use the show for major announcements. So a couple of new redesigned websites, SMB Nation, My Pocket MBA. We're announcing a service that we were approached, quite frankly, by some sponsors to see if we could engage in events management. So we gave that division the name Hallmark after Jennifer's last name. It just seemed to fit. It just seemed to fit, but we were approached by Microsoft and some others asking, can we bring our expertise and talk to them about managing events? So you'll hear a little bit more about that over time. The NewCo Cloud Nation's up and running, coming up on its 4th month next week, and it'll be its 2nd month of a teaming with D&H. I'll show you these sites in a minute. Fall 2013 in October will be the 11th annual conference for fall. Really interesting that we've teamed with Redmond Channel Partner Magazine on that one. So we're going to have a little bit different conversation this year, a little bit higher level on the business front, and probably a little bit deeper in some other products you might not have explored so much on the technical front, maybe a little bit of System Center, that kind of thing, that we normally might not look at on a day-to-day basis. And then I'll show you the PC Pit Stop white paper that we're releasing today. It's up on our site. So with that said, let's do a little show and tell here. So here's the new SMB Nation site that's launching today. And so you'll be able to resolve to that in just a few hours. It's fresh, we like it, and it's kind of funny because all these sites are refreshing right now. So Channel Pro refreshed recently. The 9 Lives media sites even more recently just refreshed. If you track MSP Mentor, they refreshed. And then I got a notice today that Redmond, not Redmond Channel Partner, but Redmond, their sister publication for customers, just refreshed this morning. So I don't know what it is. Spring is in the air. But go ahead and poke around the new site, as well as the new Pocket MBA site. You can poke around and get to know us a little bit better on what we're doing on the education front. I want to strongly encourage you to stop by the Cloud Nation booth out on the exhibit floor. It's a sister company, friend of the family, so take a look at Cloud Nation and what that's about. That's that site. And then finally, the fall site, so the Redmond Channel Partner, SMB Nation, teaming on the fall live experience in Las Vegas, and that's, again, that's smbnation.com/fall for that one. Let's go back to the presentation. So some big announcements. Jenny, come on up here. Come on up here, Jenny. This is well earned and well deserved. So today we're announcing Jennifer Hallmark is the president of SMB Nation after 7 years of service. I was going to say that we could have you on the list of 30 under 30, but you just had a birthday recently and well deserved. I can let that slide by, but we can still get her in 40 under 40. How's that sound? So we'll get you on the list, but congratulations, and it's just been a pleasure to work with you. You've been here for much of the company history and helped us grow and get to where we're at and bring order when there's been a little bit of chaos and a little bit of ready, fire, aim, and Jenny kind of got it back in order, so ready, aim, fire. So congratulations. I know you're busy. I just wanted you to stop by for a second and have a little moment with us. And then Chris Banks. Chris Banks, many of you know, he's been with us 6 years, and he's elevated up to the title of VP for Sales and Marketing. He's watching from Vero Beach, Florida. So Chris, well deserved. Now, with that said, let me kind of give you some content. Had a really interesting experience this past 30 days or so, and many of the people are in the room. So raise your hand when I go by. I don't want to miss some of the people who were participating in our photo essay. But what I did is it kind of started out as, well, you know, we're a magazine, so we needed content. And then I've been able to consistently fool the IRS and buy personal use goods on the corporate account, like a Nikon camera, as long as you use it for business purposes. And that's the way the home theater, of course, is used for business purposes. So yeah, every now and then you got to use the Nikon camera for business purposes, right? You got to go out and do that. So I visited over 15 computer stores, and along the way, I learned a lot, okay? And on the one hand, and I don't want the people we're honoring to take it the wrong way, but it kind of felt like an Ansel Adams experience, right? Where he's out shooting the American Cowboy and getting that as a coffee table book. And it kind of turned into a little bit of that. I hope you'll catch that flavor as we take a quick peek at this document. And then every picture tells a story. Everybody has just a little bit different business model, and everybody's excited and eager to transform their businesses to remain relevant, because the times are changing out in the computer shops in some of the smaller consultancies. So let me hop over to that. There we go. And we'll quickly go through some of those, and if I see you in the audience, I'll kind of give a shout out. Do we have e-bits here from the U District? E-bits, I know they're coming a little bit later. So this is right on University Avenue at 50th with e-bits. One of the things I discovered with them, well, they have a huge student population, of course, but one of the things is many of these shops are also engaged in telecom. Okay, so they're reselling mobile plans and telecom services. That was an interesting discovery. This was one of my favorites. This guy in Tacoma, unfortunately, he can't make it up. But look at that sign up there, humankind practice both. This is a good guy, and what I wanted to kind of bring out is these are the people that drive the tech sector. This is where the work gets done. And again, we want to honor that. We have PCE Computing, Corey down south. We have Geeks at Site. They'll actually be up here tomorrow. Unfortunately, there was a family emergency today that they have to address, what's her name? Alice, excuse me. Alice was up here last night for a little focus group we did, and then she'll be back tomorrow. So you'll recognize Alice and Chris. Corey or Charles? Charles, stand on up. Yeah, you're over in the over by I-90 in the Central District, sir, and you're reselling bandwidth and telecom in addition to your computer services. Is that right? So the answer for the online audience is that's right. What I liked was I just adore your branding. I love that moving billboard.
Yeah, Harry, we have a couple of things here.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
So on the website, from the people watching abroad, we have a question, and that is regarding the webcast. Is the recording going to be able to be viewed later? Is it recorded?
Yes, selected speeches will. There's one or two speakers that kind of have a copyright on their content, but we'll clarify that. Thank you. I'll clarify that in the daily email newsletter that goes out every morning. So I'll clarify that. But suffice it to say 80% of the content will be recorded and made available.
Then we have a tweet from Microsoft Princess.
Oh.
She's glad to be here.
Okay. Oh, there you are. So that's Melanie Goss from, we met through the Microsoft VFI Political Association, by the way. Thank you for coming in from Manhattan. We appreciate it. Yep. Again, this guy had his own savoir-faire, and that sign's been up for 22 years. Took a windstorm or two, but he's a good guy. Down south past Tacoma. Longtime SBSer Curtis Thiel. Now, what Curtis Thiel has done is, Curtis, are you in the room, sir? Just 2 seconds, but you've been involved in the Chamber of Commerce and some of the contests. Were you a 40 under 40, or you've done those kind of things? And the answer is yes for the worldwide audience. He's done the 40 under 40 thing. But no, great way to grow your business. Old school way to grow your business. Very nice. We have Seattle Laptop. We've actually used Seattle Laptop on Aurora Avenue, and you know, they've got a niche. They've got a niche. I had to wait 20 minutes to get the guy's time because of the walk-in traffic, and so I was impressed by that point that he has obviously a very well-defined niche, Seattle Laptop. And then we have this guy. Mike, go ahead and stand up. Man after my own heart, you know, because I started my company in my garage, and you have a home office, and you're doing it. You're a taxpayer and contributing to GDP, and you serve small businesses in addition to the end customer. Is that correct? Right over here in Kirkland, Washington. And guys, I mean, how many of us either started in our home office or garage, or are still in our home office and our garage with the new mobility? Question? Or you're affirming. PC Fix. Do we have the PC Fix crowd? I know well, there they are. So PC Fix, chat it up with these people, and they'll divulge as much of their business model as they're comfortable with. It's not for me to do. But they have an interesting take on the franchise model that they've grown with strategically. So they're in 6 locations in the Seattle area. I've known them for years. Great branding, saw the car downstairs. And what I would offer is kind of get to know what they're doing, because they also want to get to know what you're doing. Had a conversation with Todd, and we're going to do lunch in May and talk a little bit about transformation to the MSP model from what is effectively traditionally a storefront retail environment, yada, yada, yada. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be great in about 7 days after all this. ACC Tech, longtime supporter of SMB Nation down in Tacoma. not sure if I see that gentleman here. And then finally, Bainbridge Island Technology Solutions right by the ferry. I know they'll be here a little bit later and participating in the conference. So that's my shout out to the photo essay that we were engaged in. Let me keep it going. Let me show you the PC pit stop paper. Rob, go ahead and stand up. So Rob Chang from PC Pit Stop, early Gateway guy, and I love that era. I love Gateway, the cow spots on the boxes and stuff. Well, he's transformed his business model to PCmatic. You probably see their ads up on, I do on CNBC and CNN. I'm sure they're on other channels too. They're impactful, and so it's been a pleasure to help introduce them to the SMB community. They're launching a new MSP program with this conference. They have a booth on the floor, and with that today we're launching the white paper that tells the whole story about PCmatic, the opportunity, and their MSP program and where to go get more information. So this is pretty exciting stuff. And I think we have a photo. No, we didn't use the marathon running photo. We used the, because I know that you've been active in running. With that said, and we are just about right on time for Richard to come on up. Richard, go ahead and make your way up to the front, sir. I just want to thank you for both the online worldwide audience and the local audience for taking time out of your busy day, kind of deferring your sunshine in Seattle for another day to attend our conference. Use hash SMB Nation for communication. Please monitor spring.smbnation.com as your information source. And then tonight, cocktail party hosted by Dell in the Host Hotel down at the Residence Inn. So I think we're ready to cut over, sir. However that works. There we go. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. So, you don't have to adjust your monitors remotely. This is natural glare, folks. So, I'm Rich Reefer, and I am the CEO of Global Cloud Consulting. You go, who is the fat guy up on stage, and what's he got to do with anything? So, to give you some background, we're going to find out how many people are here from the dark ages that have ever heard of Burroughs Corporation. Okay, it's biblical in nature, folks. In my past, I was fortunate enough to actually work with Ray Norda at Novell when he launched Landa, the local area network dealer association. During that same time frame, Steve Ballmer actually helped us in Landa as well. So this is going back like forever. I also was with Businessland in my previous history when Steve Jobs rolled out the NeXT. So I was part of the engineering team that worked with him directly when he actually produced the NeXT machine. I've still got one of his mugs at home. Now, in 1991, when we had the going out of Businessland sale, I started my own company called Trivalent. It was 2 men and a switch. So we basically came out at that point in time and started the business, talking about in my kitchen, at the kitchen counter. My dog loved it at the time, thought it was great. My partner would come over every day and we would work there. So grew it over the 20 years to about 25 million with about 65 people. 1991, I kind of hit the point in my career. I want to do something different. I'm a little tired of being a VAR, stuck between the rock and the hard place of all the vendors promising over here and all the clients demanding everything. So I said, I've got to do one of two things. Either I'm going to go to work for a client or I'm going to go to work for a vendor. Well, at that time, I knew the folks over at Zenith Infotech, and they asked me to come on board as their VP of Cloud Practice. So for the past 2 years, that's what I've been doing, working with them, helped them bring back the BDR product, because that was a product that the reseller channel wanted, and also worked with them to actually fine-tune and make sure that they're offering. I haven't anybody done here done the SSO or the data center in Iraq and been down that road? Got a few people. So the big thing is on that level, we basically brought it out now, and it's called Tiger Cloud. Now I have Global Cloud Consulting, and I formed that last year, and part of my thing is to help resellers take and become MSPs and move into cloud service providers. So are your clients moving to the cloud? So I'm going to sit up here and go blah, blah, cloud, blah, blah, cloud. And you go, wonderful. What a great presentation. Now, let's not make any assumptions in here. Okay? Can anybody tell me what this says? Jumping to conclusions. We all do that. We have enough information, we believe, to make a logical decision. Hopefully today I'm going to show you how to think differently, how to look at things from a different perspective. So let's get into the State of the Union. This is the cloud computing value chain. Nice, easy eye chart for everybody to look at. But if you take a look, here's some key things. Everybody talks about the cloud. Well, it's out there, it just runs. Well, guess what, folks? It's got to run on some hardware somewhere. We've got the technology and it's running. So when I run Salesforce, it's running on a piece of hardware, whether it's Cisco, whether it's Dell, et cetera, out there. It runs out of a facility, okay? There's some data center that's hosting these cloud applications. You've got to have the system's infrastructure, the enabling technologies, whether it be terminal services, web enablement, VMware, Hyper-V, et cetera. Those are the enabling technologies behind it. Then you get into the actual development and deployment side. How is it being presented out there? Finally to the application, and then last but not least, out to the presentation side. Now, one thing I'd like you folks to think about when it comes to technology. How many in here have smartphones? All right. Think of this as a snack. All right? This is a little bite of email, a little nibble of IM, a tweet, back and forth. Tablets. Anybody have tablets? Well, that's your dining experience. That's pre-prepared menus by and large. You will read an entire novel on there, but you probably wouldn't make this PowerPoint presentation on there. PCs are cooking, so snack, dine, and cook. Think of that in the future. So let's take a look at where this market's really going. Well, basically, this is a Gartner study from the end of 2012, and it was a $111 billion market out there in this global cloud market landscape. They're predicting it to go to $131 billion this year. That's an 18% increase. Now, 37% of all IT say they're using some form of the cloud. That's up over 11% over last year. North America is going to account for 59% through 2016. For you folks that are in the global market, there's other avenues out there, and Asia and that portion is one of it, as well as the EU. Now, this is the current market landscape. 47%, folks, are ads. All the stuff, when you pop up and you go browsing, that's what it's made up of. The next part, this is a big part that's coming out. Business process as a service. 30% is going that direction, where it's taking more than just a single software application, but you're embracing the entire business process out there. Then you get into the software as a service, things like Salesforce, Office 365 falls into that category, and then some of the others that are out there. Now, if we take a look at where it's going to be made up of from a research standpoint, the top 4 in here, financial services, healthcare, communications, and government. So we see that from a perspective of the cloud people that want to use it. Now, some of this is a little bit older information, but the questions are still relevant here. These are the primary driving factors that businesses are asking. So the first one, reduce cost of infrastructure. You know, I've got a 2003 server out there and it's time to upgrade. Well, I may look at the cloud because I don't have to pay that capital expenditure out now. I may switch it over to an OpEx type of approach. Flexibility and growth, scalability, backup. It's interesting to note the size of the companies that fit in here. If you notice large companies in here, they were only 15%. Part of that is large companies have been thinking about disaster recovery and backup for a long time. They've been doing that already. That's why their response is lower. So for you folks in here, you see, there's a lot in here. BDR appliances, for those that are doing those types of things out there. Now, here's the interesting part. When it comes to those 5 question areas, who helps make the decision in here? It is either a primary decision maker or it's the trusted advisor. How many in here are managed service providers? Okay? If you are a managed service provider, you fall into, hopefully, the role of a trusted advisor. If you're providing telecom, you are also a trusted advisor. If you provide the end software application, you fall into the role of a trusted advisor. So that's something to keep in mind. If you take a look at these, 4 out of the 5, the trusted advisor has a bigger importance or more weigh-in than the key decision maker in the company. So you've got some great opportunities moving forward. Now, if we take a look at the acceptance of cloud in the market and see where that has gone, if you take a look at the executives in companies and how that has changed now, from just last year, which was 34% to 66%. Now, you have to take a little bit of this with a grain of salt. Part of it is it's an acceptance. They fully understand the cloud. Hey, I've got an iPad and I use the iCloud. I know what the cloud's all about. Is that really it? No. But part of it is coming in that you're going to have people with a start of knowledge about the cloud, where just a few years ago, when you started talking cloud, they go, is it going to rain out? Well, we're in Seattle, probably. So if we take a look at the cloud demand in the marketplace out here, just what they're currently using and plan to use this coming year. This is a current CompTIA study. So if we take a look at the growth in the small area, it's going to jump up an additional 30% as we move forward. There's a great opportunity for you folks in the cloud from this side. So when we take a look at the stats of the folks that are part of SMB Nation, you're focused on the SMB space, logically, otherwise we'd call it Enterprise Nation. The average annual sales are $500,000 to $1 million a year. Typical sales, you're 1 to 9 people, and the average size of your client is 10 to 25 users. This is where your sweet spot is. So how are SMBs going to choose a cloud service provider? Let's look at some of the research that's been done out there on what's making up their minds. First of all, security. They're not going to say, well, I want to implement security in the cloud. They're concerned about security in the cloud. They want to know that if you come out with a cloud offering, that it is going to be secure from that perspective. Next thing, you better offer a clear business case. You know, 10 years ago, we talked tech. We're going to put a small business server in. We're going to do this, 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 and this. Now, they want to start talking, how are you going to help them in their business? SLAs and guarantees. Your service level agreements are going to become very, very critical moving forward. And you need to start thinking about business level SLAs, not tech SLAs. And price. Now, as if you guys didn't know, in the SMB space that they're sensitive to price. So here's some of the criteria. They're going to adopt backup line of business apps, email, etc. The primary service provider in that organization and the primary line of business software provider are going to be the most likely providers of cloud in the SMB space. They're also going to select the cloud provider if you can deliver it with a minimum amount of hassle. If you go out there and try and have a cloud offering that's twice as much hassle as their local server was, they're not going to like it at all. That's the reality of it. You're going to get their interest if you say, I've got a solid business case and I can show you how I can do it securely. Finally, you got to meet their needs, you have to address their security concerns, and you have to provide it affordably. That's part of the magic. So here's some top 7 research findings. This was a Cisco research that was done. Their awareness has dramatically increased. We talked about that already. In fact, they were talking about 45% of SMBs under 250 employees already have at least one cloud service out there. So 50% of SMBs are going to spend more than 1/3 of their budget this year on cloud and managed infrastructure. we take a look, there's pent-up demand for software as a service. We're seeing that. I'm seeing resellers have that already happen to them, where they've been implementing, working on a solution, and the software vendor comes in and says, we have the cloud version now. And all of a sudden, their revenue disappears. If we take a look, security assurances and demonstrated business impact. This reiterates the stuff that I just said. This is another survey from that aspect. This one right here is the one that I believe is the single biggest thing for you as providers in the SMB space. The fact that you have services tailored to SMB. One of the reasons they go with you is you're willing to work with them and provide customized solutions for them. You don't just shoehorn everybody into a single type of solution. That's what's making you successful. You know, the SMB space doesn't represent a single monolithic segment. I'm going to show you the impact to you as service providers coming up. They're looking for cloud-based and managed infrastructure solutions, not technology-led. Like I said, if you're coming in there and talking servers, switches, megabits, and stuff, today, they're going to start talking to the people that start talking about business and why you want to do the cloud with business. So even if you are going to provide the server, start leading with business cases. And you as service providers are well placed to take advantage of that SMB market space. You're the preferred supplier. So that helps a lot. 50% also of SMBs say that integrated security is going to increase their interest. So what are implications to you as that service provider out there? Well, there's latent demand. We're seeing it already out there. The SMBs are rapidly coming on board, as you saw in the previous survey, where they're going from 20 to 50% are going to look at the cloud. You need to be ready at the table, both from your sales or if you have sales staff, to have those people address this. Also, you can't take the entire market as one segment. Targeting is going to be key from a marketing side. You're going to have to look at sub-segments out there. So even if you come up with the best cloud solution in the world, and you say, "Guy, it fits everything," don't market it that way. Look specifically at each industry, because medical has its own unique set of criteria as opposed to retail, as opposed to lawyers. Anybody in here deal with lawyers? And you admit it, okay. I got that on film. So service providers, you need to start thinking strategically about partnerships. If you are going to offer any sort of cloud out there, especially from a public cloud side, you're going to have to look at telecom as becoming your best friend. You're going to want to get to know those telecom folks. So you've got to have that low total cost of ownership for the SMBs. You've got to have that sales team, once again, that can guide them through. Now, let's talk about a SWOT analysis. That's your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats if you call yourself an MSP, first and foremost. So let's go with the strengths. If we take a look at that, the big advantage you have right now is that you are their IT department already. That's huge. You tend to have a substantial share of their wallet. You're getting a lot of money from them now. You tend to be the biggest expenditure on an annual basis that they have in IT. Hopefully you have streamlined and made their life better, that things are working better for them since you came as their MSP. You play a vital role in backup. How many are doing BDR appliances or similar type technology? Excellent. When you take a look at that, you're doing that vital role that's in there. Sorry about that. And you know the clients well enough. You've learned their business. You know what stupid app they run on Friday morning that seems to blow up their PCs. You know that by heart because they call you every Friday morning, right? And you play that important role as a trusted advisor. Well, let's take a look at the weaknesses that you have. The big thing is that the infrastructure that you're managing is not cloud-based. It's local. Tend to have local servers, local everything. You may not have a data center if a client wants to even go with you for cloud. In my travels in the first quarter, I was in 30 major cities talking to a lot of resellers out there. And I had one reseller come in and says, Rich, I've got a data center. But I had a client come to me and say, I want to go with your cloud offering. What is it? He said, I didn't have an answer. All I've been doing is data center and MSP business, things of that nature. So you have to be prepared for it. So even if you don't have a data center, you may want to have a relationship with one or a relationship with a cloud reseller, something that'll offer the cloud out there. You find a lot of partners, or a lot of in this size, don't have knowledge about some of the latest enabling technologies that doing VDI, that are doing virtualization. You know, if you're still installing Microsoft Server's OS on the bare metal, you need to think about your future. I'm going to be pretty blunt, because the future is to put it on a hypervisor. If you want to be able to move that server in the future, your work is like that. So even if you're providing physical servers out there, you better have a hypervisor platform below it that'll enable the migration much easier. You may not have a comprehensive business plan to focus on the ROI of the cloud. And this one is true for a lot of people. You just may not have the financial resources. You may be living month to month, or maybe month to month and a half, 2 months, out there from starvation. If you don't sell something, you're not going to live. But what are some opportunities for you? Well, the fact that you understand what your clients have, that's a key advantage that you've got moving into this market. You have the opportunity, because you know what they have, how to position them into the cloud. You can own their IT infrastructure. Now, tomorrow during the session that I have, I'm going to show you how you can own their IT infrastructure and get a little bit more in depth on that. You can also lower your cost of delivery. When I was in Vegas, there was a partner that was there, and he said, Rich, over the past 2 years, I converted all of my clients to VDI. 95% of the workstations that I support out there are all VDI, whether they're on site or whether they're running out of my new cloud center that I built. He said, my support costs dropped by 80%. Now, the big impact to him was he reduced his selling price by 20%. His clients loved him, said it's fantastic, it runs better, and he increased his margins by doing that. Now, what are the threats to you? Well, in that 10 to 25 range, Office 365 is pretty tempting for a lot of businesses. You find out that those small businesses are going to their Chamber of Commerce with their CEO roundtables, and they're looking at it and going, hey, Fred, you went to the cloud. What do you think about it? Hey, it's working okay for me. And they come back and they want to start talking about it. Now, thankfully, Microsoft has recently made some changes in their program, but prior to this, folks, those were not your clients if you moved them to Office 365. They're Microsoft's clients. You want to make sure they stay your clients. Now, this second one, in my travels, I've actually had several resellers come up to me and said, this actually happened to them. They were supporting their client. They had a SQL server, the whole line of business app was running and everything else. And one day the client calls up and says, hey, Fred, by the way, we're next month, we're done. What do you mean done? We're still managing it, so everything's running great, yeah? Well, yeah, but our line of business app moved to the cloud, and by the way, they can offer us Office and everything else. And they said, they'll just convert our workstations to dumb terminals, so we really don't need you anymore. And they actually lost business to that. So a key thing here is keep your friends close and your enemies closer when you're going through this business. So if we take a look at the summary of the research from SMBs, they're going to stick to the basics. They want that line of business app, managed email, web hosting, desktop productivity. They're going to leverage their trusted provider. Make sure you can do that while you still are their trusted provider. And you need to focus on providing a secure environment that shows significant impact to their business. So, what direction do you go? Do you offer public or do you offer private? Well, public couple definitions here. Public runs on shared resources. Private runs on dedicated resources. It's not where it's located. We quite often make the mistake, if it's private, it's got to be on site. No, you can have private in your co-location, but you dedicate all the hardware 100% to them. So keep that in mind. Private does not mean it is on site. It just means that the hardware is now dedicated. So this is the key determining factors for you in which direction you go. Bandwidth is going to be the single biggest factor that's going to determine your ability to offer a public cloud. If your client has 75 users and all they have is a T1, and that's all the bandwidth you can get to them, folks, you're never going to offer them a public cloud, at least with the current state of the technology. It just doesn't exist. That's the reality of it. So if you have bandwidth, then you have the ability to offer public cloud. So a lot of places, Comcast, I know that in the Philadelphia area, they're offering 100 meg circuits, full bidirectional, for $400 a month. You can do a lot with a 100 meg circuit. That's the reality of it. Now, security is going to be the single biggest factor that the client is going to use to determine whether or not you go public or private. Lawyers tend to want to go private, no matter what. Or you need to demonstrate high level of security for them. So that's something you take a look at. These are the two determining factors. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. Where do you want to take your company? How big do you want to make it? What are you in business for? How many in here are here to play with technology? Oh, come on, there's got to be somebody honest in here. There's I like to play with technology. All right, how many in here are to make money? All right, hopefully you're all here, though, to make money ultimately is the driving factor. So are you planning on selling the business? What's your end goal? How are you going to get out of this thing? You want to merge with another company so you don't have to carry most of the load? Do you want a lifestyle company? Anybody know what a lifestyle company is? I show up at the first of the month. I go, hey, you guys did great. You made me more money. See you next month. I got a friend of mine that I always laugh with him. I say, you actually race cars for a living. You do not have an MSP, you race cars, because you do that most of the time during the month, and you show up one week or so out of that whole time. So what's your goal? How are you going to get out of this? So how much is your business worth? It used to be that sales was the primary multiplier, and it's still factored in, but they really leverage heavily on EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, debt, and amortization. So what creates a good valuation? If we look at this cloud computing value chain, I'm going to pick one company out of here and show you where they're going, what's happened. So we're going to pick on Equinix right here in the co-location space. They're trading at a forward EBITDA multiplier of 13.3 times EBITDA. That's actually very high. Their stock outperformed the Standard & Poor's last year by 66%. They have an EBITDA guidance of $1 billion. I don't have Mini-Me with me, I just had the other one. So when we take a look, this has been able to maintain this over time. Since 2010, folks, they've been, their lowest down here was 8.9 times EBITDA. Well, you say, well, where do we fit? MSPs tend to be 2.5 to 4.5 times EBITDA. Just 2 years ago, that was 3.5 to 6.5. MSP valuations, the multiplier is dropping. An average EBITDA for an MSP is between 8 and 14%. I think the HTG group classifies their average right around 11. General technology companies, the people that are providing you the technologies, have a multiplier 3.1 times and 9.3 times EBITDA. Now, if you do the math in there, that is basically a 33% EBITDA on average. Cloud companies average 4.7 times revenue, 29.5 times EBITDA. You want to make your company worth something that it sells? Become a cloud company. If we take a look at the evolution of services, we all started here by the hour. We're going to offer services by the hour. we all rapidly implemented some form of block time. Now, a couple reasons we implemented block time was, first of all, it made it sticky with the client, helped our cash flow, bad for our year-end financial if we didn't leverage all of it because it showed us a liability. We then progressed into projects. Now, in 1991, when I started Trivalent, in 1993, I opened up an office in Detroit, Michigan. Now, you know you're from Michigan when you do this, and see, I'm over here, and Detroit's over here. So we opened up an office in Detroit and brought on a partner. This guy could sell the value better than anybody else. Now, in those days, we were doing net frame servers and 3-com switches. That's what we focused on. He would go out there, and typically a net frame sale was anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000. And he would go out there and say, well, your $50,000 server, we're going to charge $5,000 to install it. And the client would go, well, how long is that going to take? He goes, do you care? He says, here's what we're going to do for you. And he would list out all the business reasons and the technology reasons of what we're going to do. And he says, for your $50,000 investment, isn't it worth 10% to make sure it gets done right when it goes in? Do you have a problem with doing it right? Well, no. Okay. And they would sign, and then we'd do it in 8 hours. We made great margin on installing those super servers, trust me. Now, in the past few years, we've come to managed services, but we crossed a threshold. Take a look. Prior to that, most places still had some sort of an IT guy. Even the small business, it was probably his son, nephew, whatever, that was doing the IT, and you went in there and helped him get it up and get it going. But as we moved into here, the people transferred. You are actually now the people that are daily supporting them. It's a mind shift. When you go to the cloud, we have one more thing. Now, it's called cloud in the past. Sometimes it was called outsourcing. So cloud good, outsourcing bad. But if you take a look here, assets transferred, the ownership of the hardware. When I run Salesforce, I don't know what hardware it runs on. I don't care as a business owner what hardware it runs on. I just want to make sure when I pick up my browser and I log into Salesforce, it's there and it responds. I don't care what the technology even is behind it, as long as it works. Now, technology, if you take a look at the cycles in here, the early adopters tend to get high margins. You have expertise and efforts rewarded in that beginning. The acceptance period in the middle here. Good margins, broad acceptance, but competitors start coming out of the woodwork. Over peak, mass acceptance, everybody's doing it, and you get weak margins. If you are just starting a VAR business and you think I'm going to be a VAR, here's where you are on the cycle. You're at the tail end. MSPs, if you're just becoming an MSP, we're now into the late majority. You could see by the number of hands that went up of people that consider themselves managed service providers. If we would have done this 4 years ago, there would have only been 1 or 2. Finally, if you're a cloud service provider, you're going to be in the early adopter phase. It will rapidly move to early majority in the next 1 to 2 years. So, where are you at? Are you break fix? Are you a VAR, MSP? Telecom. Anybody in here doing telecom? Excellent. All right. You need to embrace it. You have to know how that technology is to offer any sort of public cloud. If you notice, MSP was recurring revenue model. The CSP is recurring revenue model with ownership. So, where do MSPs fit in? Well, you're on the right road. You need to keep building that recurring revenue model. Add and refine your SLAs. Focus on business, not tech. It's so easy for us to get caught in the weeds that we always think about the tech and we start talking about speeds, feeds, bits, bytes, megabytes, whatever out there. One more step you need to do. You need to own the assets. So, are you working hard, enjoying it less? As a managed service provider, do you have to justify your daily existence now? You know, you've really got the stuff working well out there. And it maybe has been working for some of your clients for 1 to 2 years. And they're going, what the heck am I paying them for? Because, you know, I mean, we like the fact that it runs well, but is he really doing anything? So are you doing quarterly business review to death in order to justify your existence? So, oh, I've got to have more reports. I got to have tech reports. I got to show how many antiviruses I removed last month. The business owner doesn't care. Trust me. You sit down in the QBR and the business owner, they glaze over and they go, thank you very much. I'm glad you were here today. When you're done. So are you starting to worry about prices dropping? Because now the new little MSP that didn't do all the work that you did in the beginning is coming on board, and they're coming in at half your price. Because they only have 2 guys and you have 8 guys that you have to worry about supporting. So shift to becoming a CSP. Own what your client uses on a daily basis. If you think about it, if you're a cloud service provider and I'm providing your entire office experience to you and you run all the applications on my cloud on a daily basis, how much justification do I have to do? Not as much. It's a fraction of it because now they're using you every day. So own both the cloud and the local environment. So I need a volunteer. I want somebody that can, who is not colorblind. I need a volunteer. Just okay. In a second, I'm going to bring up some words, and I want you to tell me, going from top to bottom, what the color of the word is. You ready? And everybody else can do this in their mind. So just shout them out when we bring this up. Go ahead.
Blue, green, red, yellow, purple.
Did excellent. But a lot of people will automatically switch over going red, orange, blue, purple, green. Keep that in mind when you're going through this. So some things to consider. This was a slide that I used to use with my clients out there. And it's RTO, RPO, and RSL. Well, what the heck is that? I said, Mr. Client, I need your input. I need to know from you, first thing, recovery time objective. That's a measure of how fast your emergency system needs to be up and going. And we measure that in weeks, days, hours, minutes, and seconds. The recovery point objective. That's how much data you can afford to lose. Can anybody tell me what the average real recovery point objective is for the small business out there?
Nothing.
Yeah.
The objective or the reality?
The reality of it.
Okay.
2 days. It's actually 2 days. Think about it. You take a backup at midnight, and if you're using a BDR appliance, well, you start transmitting it, and they have a fire and it blows up. They could be down for 2 days. They have 2 days potential loss of data. So this is another one that is called recovery service level. How much horsepower do you need in the event of a true disaster? Now, as part of my previous business, I designed and built 2 data centers, and we had a 500 meg link with Bissell, you know, floor sweeper people, and we were their DR site. They had defined the recovery time objectives, the recovery point objective, and the recovery service level for every single one of their servers. They said in the first 24 hours, we need these 7 servers up and going. By the end of the first week, we need to have these additional 17, and within the next 30 days, we have to have these next 30 servers up. The rest of the servers don't need to be up until we rebuild the plant. So the shop floor data collectors are not really needed the next day. But guess what? They sure want to know that finance server that has their complete list of inventory on it so that they can go to the fire on that. So the vertical on here is dollars. And I say, Mr. Client, just pick where you want to be on the curve. The closer you get to 0, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Because one of the things that don't get yourself caught in is when you go to the cloud, they say, I have to have this level of fault tolerance for this whole system. You go, well, what's your small business guy got now? Well, let's see. We got a 2003 server, we got a tape backup in it, we got a UPS that'll go for 20 minutes. So if they lose power, do they have a generator? Well, no. Well, then they could be down for 3-4 days or a week. So you have to watch it that you don't overcommit, or you don't necessarily need to overcommit for certain things out there. Now, there's another myth out here, the myth of 5 nines. All right? 5 nines, 5.26 minutes of downtime a year. I'm going to give you some interesting statistics. There are tiers of data centers, tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you want to find out more about it, go to the Uptime Institute. Look that up. They have all the stats behind it. A tier 4 data center is the absolute best data center in the world. Redundant power grids, feeding redundant generators, redundant UPSs, redundant HVAC, and redundant switching and telecom in there. Now, a tier 4 data center has an uptime of 99.985%. Also remember, it's not if, it's when it will go down. Just if you take a look, go look at Rackspace, go look at some of the ones that happened down here in San Francisco. There was a major tier 4 data center that it basically died and half of their generators didn't come online. So that can happen out there. So how do you address it? How do you address that whole 5 nines issue? Well, one of the things that you can do 2 things. First of all, when you go to the cloud, make sure that you exclude maintenance windows from that 5-9 calculation. To be practical, Salesforce has a 8-hour a month that they can take Salesforce down, SLA with us, for maintenance. Well, if you do 8 hours in a month, you know, you're taking a look out here, they're only at 98 point something uptime if you include it in your uptime calculations, but they don't. So exclude maintenance. The other thing you can also do when it comes to the contract side, I'll offer you 5 nines of uptime all day long. You're paying me $1,000 a month for the service, and you're down for 15 days out of 30 days. Well, 15 divided by 30, it's half. I'm going to give you $500 back. Well, as you know, that's probably going to make you a little bit upset with me, but you take a look at the scales that are out there, you'll find out most of these tend to be logarithmic. You start out with a little bit, 0 impact to you, and as it goes up, that maybe by the 3rd day down, you are giving them half a month or more credit if something happens. Telecom, why should you worry about it? Redundancy issues and concerns. A single telecom circuit statistically has an uptime of 99.7%. You take a look, AT&T and that's what the statistics from that background. In-site bandwidth concerns, how much is needed? Now, if you want to take a rule of thumb, if you're going to do remote desktop services, I always use 50 kbits as the value. We say, I can get better than that. You probably can. But never stretch technology to its fullest extent. Anytime you push something to 100%, it'll probably break on you. I found that when I kept things between 60 and 70% of utilization out there, things ran great for a long time. It's when you try and stretch it that you're going to end up breaking it. Now, ICA, that can be 35 kbits per second as a rule of thumb. Printers, they'll suck up whatever you give them. So make sure you regulate those if you're doing network printers. Now, I want to give you one quick thing. Margin versus markup versus margin dollars. So, anybody telling me here, what's the biggest margin I can have? Anybody know?
5%.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Can I get a 200% margin? Okay. No. 100% is the right answer. Margin, if you take a look, it's a percentage of profit that you will make based upon your selling price. So margin can be anywhere from 0 to 100%. If it's 100%, my cost is 0. If it's 100%, you're giving it away. But we quite often get those two mixed up. Especially when you're in the 10 to 20 points of margin, the numbers come out fairly close. So keep it separate. Stay away from markup and focus on margin. Here's why you want to focus on margin. Margin is going to tell you as a business owner, for every $100, if I'm making 30 points of margin, for every $100, I'm going to take $30 back to my bottom line. That's why margin is more important than markup. Stay away from markup, focus on margin. Now, There is one other fallacy here. Can anybody tell me? Take a vote. How many say A is better here? 18 points of margin. How many say B is better? 33 points of margin. How many don't care which one's better? You know what? That's exactly it. They both have 250 margin dollars. Now, if this A product, I can walk in there and people give me cash for it all day long, and the other one I have to deal with and it's a big tough sales cycle, I'll sell A all day long. But keep in mind, it's margin and margin dollar is important. So, we're going to talk about one more thing. And this is time value of money. So, I've created my Gee Whiz offering. Gee Whiz, didn't you think of that? So, my cost for my hardware is $1,000. And my typical contract for this Gee Whiz appliance that I put on site is 36 months. I've got sales reps working for me, and I gave them 1/3 of gross profit as their commission. So here's how the math goes. I take the 1,000 divided by 36, it's $27 a month. Selling price of $59 per month, it gives me $32 a month of profit. That's 34 or 54% margin. Take the commission off, I'm still at 35 points of margin. This is great. So a final profit of $21. The first quarter comes and goes, and I find out I'm only getting $14 per month of profit. What happened? Time value of money happened to you. You leased the $1,000. So if you lease it, it's typically a capital lease costs $34 per month. 12.5% interest is very typical with a dollar buyout. Stay away from fair market value leases. We can have that discussion offline. That's the car business, is fair market value leases. The selling price then of $59 gave me $25 a month in profit, and because I had promised the commission of $11 to every sales rep on there, that comes off there. I have only $14 per month of profit. I left 11% on the table. Well, some of you say, hey, Rich, I had the $1,000. I just went out and did it. Okay. If you don't think your cash has value, afterwards come and see me, and I'm going to borrow whatever cash you have, and I'll divide it by 36 months, and I'll send you back a check. Is that okay? You know what's funny? After I go through this presentation, nobody has ever taken me up on it yet. So realize that your cash has value. Make sure that you figure it into your cost of doing business. So if you have sales reps in the future, if you have upfront charges you need to do, like putting labor into something, you're going to take it over the term of a contract, take the time value of money of that labor, because you have to recoup that long term, because you're putting the cash out up front to pay the engineer that did that work. So everybody focus on a card. You got a card picked? All right. Did I remove the card?
Yes.
How did I do it for all you guys? I changed all the cards in the background. What this is showing to you is that sometimes we focus on one thing so much, we don't see everything else changing as it goes by us. So here are some of the different models that you can look at. These are some reseller models that are out there. EME Cloud, Independence IT, and GenX OS33. They work with the reseller channel, and you can sell their product out there from a cloud perspective. The pros to it, low barrier to entry, rapid deployment, easy deployment for a lot of them. It doesn't take a ton of resources on your part to get some of these up and going. Now, the cons, it tends to be a fixed cost model. And depending upon who the reseller is, they may or may not guarantee long-term rates. If we take a look at the building your own, well, here are some of the providers that are out there. Dell with their vCloud, Cisco with their UCS, Citrix Cloud Stack, Zenith Infotech with their Tiger Cloud offering, being very realistic. Those are different reseller models of cloud platforms. Or you can roll your own. Make Hyper-V, VMware, Dell, the whole 9 yards, put the whole thing together from the ground up. However, if you don't have the expertise now, By the time you try to roll your own, you will be too far behind the ball game, unless you have a lot of dollars. So the big pro to rolling your own, of course, is after that initial investment, after 36 months, you make a lot of money. To give you an example of that, so you guys are in telecom. Did you put managed routers at the end out there? Give you a practical example. We put some T1s in 1997. 1601 routers, $35 a month. I still know my previous company is still charging them $35 a month for those 1601 routers every month. We made a lot of money on those. Now, cons though, you tend to have a high capital investment. Requires a lot of cash. It also takes extensive tech resources. Just because you can install Server 2012 doesn't mean you can enable a cloud platform. There's a lot more that goes into it. So, where do we go from here? Can you see the forest for the trees? What's going on this? Sometimes you just got to take that different perspective in order to actually see what's happening out there. So some key points. Don't get enamored with technology. Like I said, are you here to make money or are you here to play with it? Also, beware of the not built here syndrome. Especially if you're technical in nature. I didn't build it, we're not going to use it. Take a look. Learn from other people. There's a lot of smart people out there. SMB Nation provides education out there. HTG, others. Your peer groups are huge for learning from. Focus on a secure business-oriented model. Address security first. Address your business case. Create those business SLAs and look at it in the client's eyes. Scale as you can afford it. Leverage that time value of money to your advantage. If you're cash poor, look at the reseller models. If you're cash rich, come and see me. No, actually, if you're cash rich, look at building your own models. So, key thing, get going, but get going now. So with that in mind, let's take a look real quick at this.
Make some room!
Oh, not again.
I've been here longer than any of you.
Looks like you're outnumbered, fat boy.
Leave him alone, man. We're all connected as one, man.
I say we see how much we can get for him.
Shut your trap.
Make some room!
Oh, not again. That's it. I'm calling the IT guy.
What seems to be the problem?
It's them. I just can't take it anymore. They're just too annoying and unreliable.
Looks like these servers are officially out of service. Come on, let's go for a ride. Who's a sandwich? Now!
Are we getting upgrades? Guys?
Outdated servers, I don't know.
Hey, we're all together.
Where's he taking them?
You don't want to know. Well, my work here is done.
Wait, how am I going to be able to handle everything alone?
Oh, I almost forgot. I got someone I'd like you to meet.
Hey, handsome. I'm McLeod.
So, you think you'll be able to handle everything the old servers did by yourself?
I can handle everything.
So are you ready for the cloud? Thank you. I appreciate the time this morning and had some questions.
Yeah, and we got a mic up for the questions for the worldwide audience. So first of all, how do we turn on the mic?
Anything here?
Getting good responses from the people watching online. They're not asking questions, but they're really appreciating the content.
Excellent.
There we go. So again, we have to mic up for each question. Questions, please, or observations that you'd like to share. Okay, back row. And again, for people on the virtual broadcast, use the chat feature as well as the SMB Nation hashtag.
Richard,
Chris Smith, Tech Doctor, Chicago. You mentioned about the telecom partners, telecom partnership. What's the best way for us in this transition to go about getting into that side of the business and making sure that we know who the regional partners are or the partners that we need to work with?
Well, one of the things you can take a look at who a lot of your clients are going with for their internet backbone. That's part of it. So if it's Comcast, go find the regional manager for Comcast and tell them, I want to work with you. So when I put my cloud offering out, that I use your services. Trust me, they'll start to get to know you and maybe to start to recommend you. That's part of it.
Next question, please. Next question, please, over here. And introduce yourself.
I'm John Sauer with Agent Associates. We're a telecom master agent. When you mentioned telecom, how important is redundant telecom carriers to a cloud service solution?
Well, once again, that goes back to what the client needs. And we talk about that recovery time, that recovery point, and things of that nature. Telecom, like I said, statistically has a certain percentage. If you need more than that, you're going to have to put redundant services in. And you typically can't put redundant LAN services, so you have to look at a wireless or some other form, or depending upon whether one is buried and one is aerial in your area. So you have to look at that level of redundancy, and depends upon the size of the client. So there's a lot of variables that go into that. Redundancy can be very important to the small business client. That's why you take a look at like Cisco now, comes out that has the Verizon card built right into it. So they can actually pick up off from the DSL coming in or the cable side, bring that in, and if it fails, they'll switch over to the Verizon built-in card.
Next question, a bit from Delhi, India. Sir, I'm just so impressed.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Abhijit. I'm from India. You said that if you are a cash rich, you can build your own cloud environment. So the thing is, suppose today, if we invest hugely on the infrastructure and build our own solution, and later on we include our customers on that particular solutions, so data will increase, our customer will increase, then we have to put another infrastructure for that, and there's a recurring expenditure. So don't you think even we have the customer, if we have that kind of cash in our reserve, we should go for the reseller kind of thing to get the margin more and more?
Well, one of the things, actually tomorrow, I've got a session on the 5 steps to taking your MSP to becoming a CSP. And I show you a roadmap, and my job's not to make the decision for you, but to give you that map on when you make a decision to invest in your own versus when you look at a reseller model. And you take a look at the resources, because it's not just the cash to be able to implement the service, it's having the right technical resources on the other side to implement the cloud solution. If you have both, I would definitely look at it, because in the long run, you'll make more money. That's just the reality of it. Because when you pay for that hardware, after so many years, that cost goes away, and you increase your profit automatically. And hopefully, you keep the clients long term. But you have to look at a 3-year, 5-year business plan. You can't look at just a 1-year plan to do it that way. You've got to look out there.
Okay, we've got about 3 more minutes or so. We can take a few more questions. Any other additional live? Jay, do you have online questions, sir?
Actually, I just want to, if there are people that are a little bit on the shy side, they can just tweet their question, and then I'll ask the question for them.
Yeah, but that's the whole point about being online, is you can be shy and go to a conference. I mean, that's double shy. That's double shy if they're online and still shy.
And the tweet is #SMB Nation.
Yeah, #SMBNation.com for the worldwide audience. And I
didn't think that
please take advantage of that. Another question? Okay, Joshua, stand by. By the way, thank you for allowing us to mic people up. I've been in this business too long. Online people get very fussy if they can't hear.
Hi, Richard. It might be outside of the rules of engagement here, but can you tell us what it is exactly that you offer? Is it a consulting service, or is there more to it?
Yeah, well, part of the things that I do is as far as when I was global cloud consulting, focused on that, is to be able to work with resellers, show them how to take a look at their managed services, how to make them more profitable. Underneath my business, the managed service side, I was making 70 points of margin. So we were able to do that by leveraging the technology correctly and not always building it ourselves. That was part of it. And we had the cash to build it. I built 2 data centers. But that's some of the stuff that I do. I also help with how to put pricing plans together, things of that nature, to show you, and how to present to your end client so that they realize the value you're bringing to the table.
Thanks.
Okay?
And that was Joshua from New Mexico. 1 or 2 more questions, please. 1 or 2 more questions. Maybe some of our newer friends that we're just getting to know. Any questions from the coffee table photo essay magazine crowd? Final question, please. Yeah.
Well, at least I succeeded so far because I didn't see any heads hitting the table during the time.
Mr. Abhijit again. You talked about private cloud. You talked about public cloud. And what about the hybrid cloud? There's a lot of customers. In fact, all the customers are having their own infrastructure. They are having their own existing servers and all. And if we want them to come to the cloud solutions, then they are not really ready to, discard their entire resources and come to this cloud.
It can be just one app that they start with. So I'll give you a practical example. When my tenure at Zenith Infotech, we were a hybrid cloud. We used Salesforce, but our Exchange and everything else was local, and our SharePoint was local. So we offered our own internal cloud services from that, but we integrated with Salesforce, which was true public cloud. So you can have a hybrid. And part of it is the stage that your clients are at. Part of it's an education process. Also depends upon your offering, what you're able to give them, as to what direction you can push them in, or give guidance to, shall we say.
Okay, well, Richard, thank you so much. That's a great presentation.
Harry, got a question here?
Oh, well,
I have a question here.
Jay?
Are there any services that we should always avoid delivering to customers via the cloud?
Yeah. Graphic arts are one, just being very practical. If you're doing high-end design and things of that nature, don't put AutoCAD in the cloud. It's just one of those things, unless you happen to have gig links that you can offer really cheap, it just doesn't make practical sense to do it. So the key thing is, one thing that I find that a lot of resellers do, well, because I can't do that, I'm not going to go offer the cloud. Well, realize that 95% of your end clients don't have AutoCAD. They don't have high-end graphics departments. They're just doing Office. They're doing QuickBooks, or they're doing some other application that doesn't require that level of bandwidth. But those are the ones that you do want to watch real closely. Any of the graphic intensive. Now, even with some of the stuff with VDI, I know we played with Remote FX and looked at that. Remote FX does a very nice job. It's going to drive your costs up because you're buying a lot more hardware, things of that nature.
Okay, so we'll make that the final question for now. Thank you very much, Richard. There we go, so the online audience can hear the applause. Folks, about a 15-minute break. We're a couple minutes behind, but that's okay, because I'm the next speaker. So